Completely unrelated to blackberries, I have contacts for kind of the first time ever. I tried them once in 2019, but my optometrist was not very helpful, and I didn't realize that I had been wearing them inside out for an entire week, and so I thought that they were just extremely painful. Turns out I was wrong, and they just didn't do a good job teaching me. They also made me order like $400 of contacts up front, and then they refunded me when I came back and said, I hate these. But so I had a very brief bad experience with contacts a couple of years ago. But my glasses just constantly get scratched and dirty and awful, and I'm wiping them off, but then doing a bad job wiping them, and then they get scratched, and it's just no good. And so I decided that for the first time in 20 years, I would try contacts. And it's very weird. It's very weird to look at my own face because I'm used to having rather large glasses there, so my eyes feel very small. And I was telling Miles this morning, I was saying, I feel like my face always looks small when I take my glasses off. I look weird. And then when she was putting the contacts in my eyes, my doctor was saying, you have really small eyes. It's like, thanks. Thanks for that, doc. But the girl who was helping me, because they make you practice putting them in and taking them out at the office. The girl who was helping me after that told me I did a great job, and I picked it up very quickly. So I got a good grade in contacts.
Well, hopefully, with these new vision augments that you have, you won't run into major problems.
Yeah, hopefully I won't run into cars. That was the main thing. I should have had Miles come with me so they could drive me home, because then I just left with the contacts in. And so I just walked around stores until I felt ready to drive.
Well, cars are important, but also the piecework killer.
True. That's the lowest energy. That's like the saddest rendition of our theme song. Beep, beep, nee, 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 nee. Beaker habanero. See, but that makes it sound even sadder. Like you're like a little cat who I need to give soup or something. Sounds pitiful.
It's soup for my family.
I'm missing a reference. Soup for my family.
It's one of the president's speeches ages ago about during the BLM protests in 2020, when he was saying something about how, like, protesters were throwing soup cans at cops because, instead of bricks, then they'd get caught with soup and they'd be like, oh no, this is soup for my family. Which is just ridiculous. Which, have you heard about the dude who got arrested for throwing eggs at King Charles?
Yes, and then now he has to he has to clarify if he ever gets arrested that they're eggs for his personal use and he's on his way home. You got to listen to those eggs.
He has to have the receipt from the shop he just went to. Otherwise, he can't carry eggs in public.
Our bravest warrior.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of The Fandom Apprentice. My name is Rin. I'm one of your hosts. I'm a lifelong nerd who has spent much of my life reading, watching, playing various sci-fi fantasy stories. And I spend a lot of my time, when I can, foisting those tales onto my friends so I have somebody to yell about them with.
Hello, I'm Sam. I'm the other one. I'm the one who has things foisted on me, and I'm just along for the ride. And today, instead of one long ride, we have several short rides, because we are doing a sort of lightning round episode about 4 different stories.
Yeah, so welcome to yet another episode of Season 2. If you've been following us for a little while, you know that this season we are discussing the Murderbot Diaries by Martha Wells. We spent our first season, which was much longer, discussing Lord of the Rings in excruciating detail. And now we are going at a pretty granular level, but not quite as granular for these books. This episode, we are covering the extra little short stories that Martha Wells has written to supplement the general novella and novel series. There's 4 different stories that take place in different spots in the timeline. All of them in the timeline technically take place before Fugitive Telemetry.
Mm-hmm.
And so my plan is to sort of talk about them as if we haven't read Fugitive Telemetry. But that said, the last one of these stories does contain some characters that we meet and learn a lot more about in Network Effect. And so if you haven't read Network Effect or reading along with the podcast, we'll include timestamps for where that section is, and you can skip it and come back after we've done our Network Effect episodes. Same goes with our Fugitive Telemetry episode, although we may be releasing this at the same time as our Fugitive Telemetry episode. TBD.
It depends on how fast I can edit.
The first story takes place long before, and may or may not actually be even in the same world. And the second story is a direct prequel to All Systems Red.
Mm-hmm.
Or a near direct prequel to All Systems Red. So, I guess, do we want to just start off with Obsolescence?
Hell yeah, let's do it.
So, Obsolescence is the first short story that we're discussing. Short story, novelette. I forgot to look up the definitions of what's what. I've heard some people say novelette. Some people have said short story for these. It doesn't particularly matter. They are short little drabbles, slam fic, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
Obsolescence is, a dozen pages maybe. And it is in the anthology Take Us to a Better Place. All 4 of these stories and the full anthology, Take Us to a Better Place, are available for free online. We will link in the show notes to all of these.
Mm-hmm.
They're all quick reads.
So for summaries for these, because they are so very, very short, I just have kind of a 1 or 2 sentence vibe for each one, because I don't think there's any point in going over the plot in granular detail. But Obsolescence is the longest of these stories. Our POV character is someone called Jixie, who is responsible for some kids who call her to check on someone named Greggy, who appears to have been exploded. They investigate that he has in fact been murdered, and we get a lot of very distant past history context about augmented humans and constructed intelligence, constructed beings in the Murderbot universe.
It is, so this is a murder mystery, which Martha Wells has a couple of, I feel like, comfort zones.
Mm-hmm.
She likes her murder mystery. She likes her pseudo horror bits. We see, because Fugitive Telemetry is a murder mystery, All Systems Red and Rogue Protocol have that sort of horror element to them. This kind of does at times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So whether or not this story, I suppose you could technically read this story as taking place outside of the Murderbot universe. So it never directly references anything that happens in Murderbot, partly because it takes place so far beforehand. But is it Exit Strategy, I think? Murderbot mentions seeing a documentary about augmented rovers.
Mm-hmm.
And this story sort of gives a history of these augmented rovers.
You had told me before that that's what this story was about, and then I forgot. So my notes are just kind of summarizing the plot because it's so strange and different and kind of keep up with it. And then it just switches to all caps. Oh no, he's one of the rovers from the shows. Ack.
He's a rover from my shows. He's Blorbo from my shows.
Blorbo got exploded.
Yeah, so there's all of these stories have, and I guess just to focus on Obsolescence for now.
Mm-hmm.
This has a number of characters. We get a bunch of names. We get Jixie, who's the POV character, like Sam said, is some sort of essentially space preschool teacher. It's hard to tell how old these kids are. / station commander seems to be in charge, but is also the youngest adult. We have Greggy, who's the ex-rover and teaching assistant. Dubar is some sort of mechanic, has a prosthetic arm. Shenjin is a medic with heart augments. Tia Joy is the education admin with kidney augments. Sully has knee augments. There's another adult named Artie. And then there are at least half a dozen kids, only 2 of which are named. There's Lily and Arnie. And then there's the killer, who doesn't have a proper name.
And so we can kind of start anywhere with analysis on this one, but some of the terminology just immediately gave me a sense of unease from this story. There's a reference to someone being sent to a place called Mommyland, and that's never good, especially not in a sci-fi story. I don't want to go to Mommyland. That does not sound good. And we eventually get it revealed that this story is taking place on Kidland, which is basically where all the kids are to learn and be raised communally. And the adults working there are all older or have various disabilities and need lighter works. They're not doing heavy manual labor. They're just chilling out, taking care of the kids, which, as somebody who takes care of kids full time, you know, there's definitely people of any ability level can do it successfully, but I don't like it being written off as the place that's all the easy jobs, because it's not. And like Rin mentioned, basically all of the adults in Kidland, except for maybe Jixie, have some sort of augment. And it's unclear to me because all we know about the status of augments in this part of the timeline is that they used to be prohibitively expensive, maybe are more accessible now. But is this society, is the mother world of Mommyland just shunting all of their disabled people off to Kidland? Is this some kind of weird social segregation? I don't fully understand why all of these people are here.
I was seeing a couple of response thoughts, I guess, to that. Is one, Mommyland and Kidland to me read as slang.
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't think that they're actually formally called those things.
No, that is absolutely what these preschool teachers refer to this space as. It also, I believe this seems to me like it's essentially a boarding school where, like, because they live in a station environment, which clearly doesn't have like really intense artificial gravity. There's no like FTL information transfer. There is, when they talk about disaster protocol, the Hull Integrity Life Support Communication Order, you know, very put your own mask on before helping others type thing. Ensure that you're going to be able to stay alive to send the communication before you send the communication. This sort of says to me, like, whatever jobs the parents are doing are either like too focused or too long, or there's not enough room on the station to also have these kids there all the time. And or it was easier to repurpose, and or because it mentions too, like, there's like parts of this station that are older. It seems like maybe, this is total speculation, there's not really hints about this in the text, maybe when they built newer parts of the station where adults are working, they didn't build it for families. Like, it was built for like people to come and work, and families were like back on Mars or Luna or Earth. But now that families are here, this older section of the station has been repurposed for kids, while the adults are still doing their work elsewhere. And I don't know, it is still perhaps uncomfy with the idea that, like, yes, you don't have it, like, yes, you are disabled, therefore you get shunted off to this space. It also was sort of mentioned that, like, all of them chose to be there if they felt like they needed a lighter assignment.
Yeah.
You know, and it also seems like caring for the children is only like one piece of the focus of this part of the station.
Mm-hmm.
And Jixie is both in charge of the children and also everything else happening in this part of the station.
And that makes sense. People have to wear a lot of hats because it's, such a small, contained area. Everyone has to be able to do a bunch of jobs.
Yeah, so that's how I was reading all of this.
Yeah.
But that may or may not be true. I had to, when I was first reading this, had to read that first section like 6 times to understand what the fuck was happening with Greggy.
Yeah. Greggy is difficult to visualize.
Yeah. Because he's got like spidery legs and like partly metal torso. It becomes clear Greggy was an augmented rover.
Mm-hmm.
Which it sounds as if people who went into the rover program were given augments so they could survive in the pre-terraforming space on Mars and Luna during the initial settlement and expeditions.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like, too, this only happened, though, for people who had, like, catastrophic injuries.
Yeah.
It was hey, basically, we can fix you, but we also need you to then go and use these medical augments to help establish our colonies on Mars and Luna.
Yeah, and we don't know exactly what Greggy's circumstances were before he became a rover, but it's very clear that the choice was become a rover or die.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not really that much of a choice.
And it's not they weren't going to kill you, but it was hey, this is an option that this is a medical intervention we can give you for your own survival.
And we also see some of the history of these rovers because they start out as this amazing technological innovation, these huge heroes who have given up their arms and legs and internal organs to go help the cause of humanity. And then they slowly become obsolete. We can reflect again on the title, which is one of those short stories where you go back and read the title at the end and then it punches you in the gut. And then they just become sort of this strange curiosity. There's not a lot of rovers left. Now he's just in basically his retirement, or was in his retirement as a teacher on the station before getting violently exploded.
Murdered.
Mm-hmm.
By somebody called the Piecework Killer.
The original Rogue Sec Unit.
Yeah, so turns out it wasn't just the government who made rovers.
Mm-hmm.
It was also corporations, and they did it in a kind of sneaky, underhanded, definitely illegal way.
Mm-hmm.
When corporations were doing their own sort of exploration, and they explicitly refer to it as space exploitation at one point. And Piecework, I guess, to call them, has strong opinions about rovers and the personhood of rovers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when they make you a rover, they murder the person. The Luna government didn't murder me. Vision Space Dynamics murdered me. They said the contract would be for 20 years. Do you know how long ago that was? Vision Space Dynamics went bankrupt and their assets went to IO Explorations. And then they were bought by Cyberall. And then they went bankrupt. And then they sent the old equipment to recycling and told me to leave. It has been 76 years.
Fucking damn. And now the only way that Piecework can survive is by killing other augmented beings, other rovers, and taking their parts. So they've taken some of Greggy's interfaces.
Yeah, because it sounds like the government rovers basically have access to the VA. They have perpetual health care forevermore.
Mm-hmm.
The corporate rovers, of course, have jack fucking shit.
Mm-hmm. And we have so many parallels in this story with the current situation with Sec Unit, because despite its horrible circumstances and what ultimately happens at the end, Piecework wants to live. They want to survive. Mm-hmm. And they're going to do whatever it takes. And then we have this confrontation with this very sheltered, kind of naive society that is horrified with Piecework's existence and wanting to help and wanting to save them and not being able to comprehend what they've been through. Contrasting Piecework and Greggy, thinking about Sec Unit and Mickey, or Sec Unit and Art. There's just so much juicy stuff to contextualize our current situations. These kinds of dynamics have been playing out forever in this world.
Mm-hmm. Any other thoughts on obsolescence?
Just the last one, that this story now tells us that at this point in the timeline, the secret about corporate rovers is officially out. I'm sure that other people knew at other times, but I think that it's implied that there's going to be, if not a search for more of these corporate rovers, an awareness of them, some kind of attempt to help them.
Well, and I guess too, we see the origins of construct being treated as objects.
Mm-hmm.
Because, we know corporations treat their employees as objects.
Mm-hmm.
But if even the corporate rovers have this idea that they're not human and they're the only ones left alive after all of the other government rovers are gone, then people start to see the corporate rovers as not fully human. And then we can see the corporations getting more power and bringing these corporate rovers into the world of legality, where they're very much treated as tools.
And this is a theme across so much of sci-fi, and also cyborg theory is very much a thing in disability scholarship and interrogating, where in our body is our humanity located?
Mm-hmm.
How do people perceive us? How do we perceive ourselves when we make permanent technological changes to our bodies for various reasons? So we can't provide concise answers to that on a podcast, but it's definitely part of a much larger and very interesting conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I think we can move on to compulsory.
The Future of Work Compulsory. What a bleak fucking title.
Yeah.
Particularly when you get that beginning bit.
Mm-hmm.
The Future of Work Compulsory.
Mm-hmm.
So this one takes place sort of directly before, or at some point before, All Systems Red, but after Murderbot has hacked its governor module.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, guarding a mining installation, and one of the humans that it's watching falls down some sort of mining shaft thing, an extractor or something, and Murderbot decides to save the human, because otherwise the safety responder 28 would have gotten there just in time to retrieve the smoldering lump formerly known as Sakai. Which, one thing that I noticed, even here, Murderbot knows the workers' names.
Oh my god, that did not even occur to me while I was reading it.
When Murderbot doesn't want to use names, it doesn't. It calls things hostile, target, client. It is using the workers' names.
Oh my god. Sec Unit. Yeah, I didn't have a ton to say on this one. It is very, very short. I think that it's a good, quick, bite-sized thing to get somebody hooked if you're trying to reel in a new Murderbot reader and a novella is still too long for them. You can say, yeah, it's a couple paragraphs. Just read it.
Mm-hmm.
It's very charming. It gets you on board right away. But in terms of plot and larger context, I don't feel like it really gives us anything that the books don't give us.
Yeah, just the corporations are fucked, and it's extremely bleak.
Murderbot's still using its free will to save humans.
Apparently getting free will after having 93% of your behavior controlled for your entire existence will do weird things to your impulse control.
Mm-hmm.
Sakai and the others would be hit with fines for almost clogging the collectors with her burning body, but it was better than being dead, I guess.
Of course they'll be fined.
It's exceedingly bleak. But then we're going to have a lot to say about the next two. So I guess moving on to...
Yes!
Home, habitat, range, niche, territory. This was written for Reactor Magazine, or was published in Reactor Magazine in April of 2021. It takes place right after Exit Strategy and before Fugitive Telemetry. And apparently it was sent to people who pre-ordered Network Effect initially. And it's a Mensa point of view.
Yes, it is! And in this one, we learn so much. This is a juicy one. But just for the
so good.
Quick 2-sentence overview, we are seeing the effects of her trauma from Exit Strategy, from her point of view. And this is framed in her having conversations about advocating for Sec Unit and its place in preservation society, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to read a little quote from the beginning of this story where she's... Mm-hmm. Who is it that she's talking to? I didn't even write down their name.
Ephraim, who's another planetary admin person on the council.
Yeah, so Ephraim is warning her about this dangerous killing machine that she's brought onto the station. The killing machine in question had just sent her yet another message packet. They're piling up in her feed, and if she would stop encouraging Sec Unit by opening them, it would probably stop. They're all formal requisition forms for preservation station security, requests for increasingly improbable armaments. She responds to the latest with, "I don't even know what that is." So during this meeting, she's just getting nonstop stream of consciousness texts from Sec Unit asking for more and more ridiculous weapons.
Which, you know that Sec Unit is doing this because it, one, that's its sense of humor, and two, it knows that Mensa's in a difficult meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And it knows that she's probably spiraling.
Mm-hmm.
Very early, we get a full paragraph description describing every detail of the room she's in, and then it makes her all uncomfortable. And then we get separated, single line. It's the exact same size as the room she was held prisoner in on Tranroll in Haifa. Oh, that's the problem here.
Mm-hmm.
That's the real issue.
And if it weren't for these messages from Sec Unit, she would be literally bolting, running out of this room. This is the only thing that is helping her keep her head on, basically. And in a beautiful parallel that is not related to the plot, but just related to real life, Rin read this out loud to me while I was having a horrible day. I had been without power for almost 24 hours. And we had a really bad storm here. I was fucking losing it. It was awful. But hearing this story also helped me feel better and keep my head on. So this one, it's hard to pick a favorite, but it has a special place in my heart among the short stories.
I practically want to read every single quote. I can't because it's so short. You should just go read it. There's the whole section where you've brought a corporate. He hesitates. She wonders if he was going to say killing machine. A product of corporate surveillance capitalism and authoritarian enforcement to the seat of our government. I agree your reasons were good, but this is a situation that has to be addressed. Then there's the paragraph that Sam read. The situation is a person who saved my life multiple times and the lives of the rest of my team. Sec Unit is also a person who is not supposed to have access to the requisition forms or to station security systems at all. She knows Sec Unit is not so much taunting her with its abilities as refusing to pretend to be anything other than it is. Which is such a gender moment.
Yeah.
It's such a, I refuse to temper myself to make the cishets comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
They can fucking deal with the fact that, my appearance doesn't conform to what they expect.
Hell yeah.
The other piece that I noticed about this, the way the writing is given is very, very mid-panic attack.
Mm-hmm.
Stream of consciousness.
Yes.
The language is choppy in a way that's mimicking Mensa's thoughts. It sort of floats from place to place with no transitions.
Mm-hmm.
As if she's not really fully present all of the time. It reads like a panic attack feels.
I wonder what it's like to read this story and not have an anxiety disorder. Because I didn't feel too jarred by it. I was thinking, okay, yeah, this makes sense. This is well written. This obviously reflects her state of mind in a way that I understand. But if you're someone for whom that is not a problem, I wonder if it's almost more impactful because that way of thinking is less familiar.
Mm-hmm.
I would be fascinated if there's anyone out there who's not anxious all the time. Let us know.
If we have any neurotypical listeners.
Unlikely, but maybe.
First of all, good for you. Honestly, amazing. Wish that were me. Maybe.
But bringing it back to Mensa specifically and her trauma and the things that she's dealing with, she's trying to use this debate about Sec Unit and its presence on the station as a distraction from dealing with her own actual feelings. But then she also can't avoid comparing herself to it and thinking about how paranoid Sec Unit is and how that kind of makes sense because it's had to do that to survive. Then there's a section where she's thinking, it's about being treated as a thing, isn't it? Whether that thing is a hostage of conditional value or a very expensively designed and equipped enslaved machine / organic intelligence. You are a thing and there is no safety. And she tells herself, you're being very foolish because you were a hostage for a period of days and it was a minor inconvenience compared to what Murderbot, no, Sec Unit, she's never been given permission to use that private name, what Sec Unit went through. So she's doing the trauma thing of thinking, oh, maybe I have something in common with this person. Maybe I can relate to their experience. But what I've been through is nothing like what they went through. And I should punish myself for feeling bad about it and then feel bad about feeling bad. And then it spirals and spirals and spirals forever.
Mm-hmm.
And something that you'd said to me right after we read this together was that this story shows how deeply Mensa gets Sec Unit. And that's fully on display here. They're able to relate on a level that she can't relate because no one else in her life, in her inner circle, really has any real experience with the Corporation Rim. They're just kind of cartoon villains. They're an idea. And so in addition to the fact that just nobody else in her family was there when this event happened, they have no frame of reference for how serious the danger is.
Mm-hmm.
And so Sec Unit is kind of one of the only people that she can trust and know that they fully understand the lengths that the corporation is willing to go to.
That was one piece that I was referring to, but also just the way that Mensa understands how Sec Unit wants to interact.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple of points. She looks up, keeping her eyes on its left shoulder, leaving it the option of meeting her gaze or not.
Mm-hmm.
She just gets how to interact with it.
It offers to let her hug it after there's a scene where she gets spooked by a random journalist that sends her into another panic spiral, and Sec Unit is there immediately responding to it, sending station security to go chase them off. And it says, you can hug me if you need to. No, that's all right. I know you don't care for it. She wipes her face. There are tears in her eyes because she's an idiot. But, you know, even in that moment where she knows that Sec Unit is trying to be nice, she's saying, I know that you don't actually want me to hug you. It's okay.
But Murderbot's like, no, I think, like, you need this.
Mm-hmm.
It offered because it knows that Mensa's not okay.
Yeah, Sec Unit and also the rest of Prezox, who are just there kind of chilling, and we get some very cute little moments of them just hanging out at home, doing work, not wearing shoes. They're all bullying Mensa, telling her that she needs to go to therapy. And we also get the origin story of Sec Unit's drones, because towards the end she's asking it, you know, from all those ridiculous requests you sent me, is there anything that you actually want? And it says, I would like the drones, please. And the drones are kind of a bribe to not pressure her into getting the retrieved client protocol.
Trauma therapy in general.
Mm-hmm.
And yet also I feel like it's a bribe, while also, again, I think a continuation of Sec Unit trying to take care of Mensa as best it can.
Mm-hmm.
So it's doing the, like, you are a leader and somebody who takes care of other people, and you don't know who you are if you're not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to allow you to do something for me.
Yeah.
Because that's going to keep you grounded in yourself
mm-hmm.
for now, while I can keep working on you to actually go and talk with somebody who can actually do something about this.
Yeah.
There was one other line that really got in here, which was Bardwaj and Mensa talking about the rights of bots and constructs and trying to argue for sec units to have full rights in Presox.
Mm-hmm.
Bardwaj's expression turned serious. We can't ignore the fact that sec units are capable of being very dangerous. Glossing over that is just going to make our argument look ridiculous. Her mouth twists. They're every bit as dangerous as humans.
Mm-hmm.
There is a reason why, when I run D&D campaigns, most of my villains tend to be humanoid or mortal in some respect, because human greed will always cause the most damage.
Mm-hmm.
The human capacity for evil is very, very deep and very concerning, and I feel like humans always have the capability to be worse monsters than something like a Behir.
Yeah. We've got free will.
Yeah. I won't always do that, you know. I'll throw a vampire in there, but people are always capable of doing the greatest harm to others. And particularly in this too, Mensa points out, like, sec unit can, you know, shoot things with the energy weapons in its arms, whereas people have to manipulate or exploit others into doing the damage for them,
Mm-hmm.
which is in itself a form of damage, a
Yeah.
form of harm. And also thereby allowing people to think of themselves as not actually being dangerous. Because if they can outsource the harm to something else, then, well, that's not our fault.
I think this is an idea that we've talked about on the show before, that, you know, everyone is capable of causing harm, but especially I think because of the first short story, I'm just thinking about work. And one of the restorative justice principles that I very intentionally teach all of my kids is that there are no good people and there are no bad people. There's no good guys and bad guys. There are good choices and there are hurtful choices. You can be mean on purpose. You can hurt people on purpose. Some people make unfair rules on purpose. And that is a choice that anyone is capable of making. And we're also capable of making good choices, and we're capable of helping people. But I try to be very specific instead of saying, like, good guys, bad guys, good things, bad things. Like, are you hurting someone?
Right.
Are you helping someone? We are all capable of doing all of these things. And sometimes situations can spiral into a point where they become institutions, where they become structures, and then that requires other ways of facing them. But I think that that's a very difficult and very important thing to confront, especially for people who consider themselves leftists, who consider themselves progressive, to remember that you are not immune to fucking up royally.
Yeah, you know, you're not immune to propaganda, you're not immune to harming others.
Mm-hmm.
It takes conscious care to make sure that we continue to learn and grow and help others with all of our decisions.
And if being a good person becomes your identity, if being rational, if feeling like you fully embody all of your principles, if that becomes an identity, then it's so much harder to confront when you do make mistakes, when you do make bad choices, because then it feels like your entire sense of self is threatened, as opposed to you made a choice that either was intentionally hurtful or just didn't work out. But yeah, being able to outsource that harm, saying, well, I didn't do that. I wasn't responsible for shooting those people. Sec unit did. I didn't make sec units. I just work at the company. I agree that the existence of sec units is abhorrent, but I just work in the accounting department for the company. I couldn't possibly do anything. You know, systems of oppression.
I think, you know, sec units are abhorrent, but we shouldn't let them be here.
No.
We shouldn't let them, you know, flee that abhorrent existence.
I don't want them here.
Yeah.
That's the NIMBY equivalent of not on my station.
Yep.
Nims.
We shouldn't allow the refugees here who have experienced terrible violence.
Noms, not on my station. But you know who does want Sec Unit? You know who wants Sec Unit with them at all times?
Let's talk about the last story.
Holy shit. Oh my god. Yes.
So this one, I guess this is the point where we are going to talk about characters that will be introduced and expanded on in Network Effect and System Collapse, which are the two novels in the series, which we have not yet recorded episodes. This one is brand fucking new.
Yeah, this came out a couple days ago, which is really convenient for us.
July 10th, 2025. One of the people in our D&D group sent this in our group chat and was like, hey, have you read this yet? And we went, no, but this is incredible timing. Because we were planning on recording this episode. So this technically, Sec Unit is not mentioned in here. So if you would like to meet these characters in Network Effect and then come back and listen to this, by all means. If you would like to meet these characters and think, who are they? And then learn more later, come along. This is quite fun. Because we meet I'm going to call it a character because it is. Mm-hmm. We meet a starship named Perihelion. Mm-hmm. And it becomes really fucking clear really fucking quickly. Perihelion is art.
Yes, it is!
There's, it talks. And within, its first two lines, it's like, oh, that's art.
Yeah.
Like, even if you don't know who Perry is, like, it's gotta be art.
Perihelion's being mean to some new scientist lady. The first thing that Iris always told new mission team members was, don't let it intimidate you, because it will try. She honestly didn't know whether it helped or if it just scared them and encouraged Perry to live up to its reputation. She used her personal channel, the one nobody else could hear, and said, Perry, stop it. You'll upset Dad and Dad. Because Seth and Martin, two more scientists who we meet, are both... Sorry, everyone. I am just babbling because I was fucking rocked to my core that Art considers Seth and Martin to be its parents. We knew from Network Effect, spoilers, that Art and Iris are effectively siblings. But that it's dads. That Perihelion has dads. I'm losing my mind.
And it literally later on, Perihelion is basically being more of an asshole than it usually is. Mm-hmm. And Iris, who is our POV character for this, is like, hey, dude, what the fuck?
Yeah, why are you being weird?
You're being a dick, and they're doing some sort of crime spy shit something mission. We don't actually ever learn the exact details. They're sneaking onto a corporate station to a pre-Corporation Rim section of the station to do something. And Perry's dropping little... it's being snarky, it's being kind of an asshole, and it's dropping like, hey, I can do this thing now, which I was not initially able to do.
Much like Sec Unit requesting increasingly improbable armaments, Perry also is suggesting increasingly improbable armaments. It has somehow learned corporate military secrets. It has learned how to hack into station security. It has a lot of skills that its family did not know it was capable of.
Well, and so towards the end, when Iris is like, hey, dude, what the fuck? Quite literally, they refer to our dads. Mm-hmm. That is a line, and there is quite literally a line. She was just used to thinking of it as her precocious sibling. Mm-hmm. They're siblings.
They are.
Her sibling is a starship, but it's still her sibling.
I want to sing the Brian David Gilbert sibling song. That's them.
This is my brother. This is my starship.
We are siblings and we care for each other.
Let's see. there's, again, just a lot of fucking characters that get introduced randomly. We have Iris as our POV character. We have Seth and Martin, who are Iris's dads, although Martin is the only one that's actually identified as dad in this short story. Seth is not identified in there, so thank you for remembering that. We also have Karime in medical, Katie, Mateo, and Turi, who are in engineering, Dr. Ladson, Dr. Sunara, Dr. Marique, and Oster, who are all part of the mission team. And there's another fucking M name. There's a Dr. Mahari, who's the fake local contact. There are way too many M names. It's Martin, Mateo, Marique, Mahari. I was like, this, can we find another letter, please?
And maybe it's a subconscious bias from Martha. She just likes M names.
It's gotta be. I definitely, when I'm naming characters in writing, I'm like, I have used too many of similar phonemes. I need to change it up.
So there is a lot going on in this story, but there's one part that I am just dying to talk about.
Please.
So, like we said, Perry is being weird. It's being snarky. Its performance is clearly being affected in some way by some recent experience that it had without its crew. And Iris confronts it and basically says, hey, what the fuck is going on? You're being weird. And Perry basically comes out as robot gay. That's the best way I can describe it. It tells Iris that it met someone and it can't tell her anything about them because it would be breaking confidence and it just can't do that. But it's clear that this is very serious. So then we have Iris talking. Perry, I'm sorry. She gave it a few seconds to get over its irritation. Is there anything you can tell me about them without breaking your word? The confidence I don't wish to violate is my own. Oh, Perry. Iris found a seat on a rock. So you really like this person? I had never encountered another machine intelligence that I could experience this kind of rapport with before. That's wonderful, and it really was. She didn't want Perry to be lonely, and it refused to try to get along with the other machine intelligences in their department. Perry added, it has given me a better understanding of trauma. Yes, she admitted, and this is a quote from a little bit later. Yes, she admitted, I think you should tell our dads, just as a precaution. And really, if you're feeling anything about this, they can probably give better advice than I can. And if I don't, they will continue to annoy me about my operational state. So, holy shit, Martha. Who taught Martha our culture? This is exactly... This is beat for beat what it's like, at least in my experience, to come out to a really supportive sibling. This is a queer coming out conversation, and I am 1000% fucking serious.
No, it is.
This is Iris realizing, oh, wait, we're actually not bantering. This is like something's really happened. Oh, you met someone? Oh, tell me about them. Oh, you really care about them? You've never been able to connect to anyone else like this before? Yeah, you should probably tell our parents. They're going to be supportive, but I can't give you relationship advice. I'm Iris. I'm 16 or whatever. We should tell our dads. They're adults. They can help you. Holy shit, Martha. Who told you?
I think Iris is a little bit older than that, but
she's teen. What is she, like 19?
She's old enough to be trusted to go into definitely dangerous situation where there are guns involved.
This is my problem with getting my first perception of Iris from Murderbot, who canonically cannot guess human ages. She could be 7 or she could be 25. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, but there is a piece of she mentions basically being a human adult and mentions something that happened when she was 14. And that's the only context we get for her age. So I would say, and she doesn't seem to be a student any longer, but she doesn't get like the doctor something title. She's part of Perry's crew.
Maybe she's like in her early 20s.
Yeah, I would say she's probably somewhere between 19 and 24. She's great. I love Iris. There will be a lot of reasons to love Iris later on. But I do love the little piece where they're talking about, you met somebody. Perry, please, it's not a corporate transport, is it? You didn't bring home a Republican, did you?
Yeah. Oh.
and then it's a rogue sec unit. Oh shit, Iris sat bolt upright. She realized the rest of the group was frozen, staring at her in open concern. She told them, "It's fine. It's fine." "Is it fine?" Perry sounded skeptical. "I'm just surprised," she admitted. "A lot surprised." "Okay. Wow. That is not what I expected." My immediate thought was, Art is like this kind of snarky, but like very smart, kind of bookish lab nerd.
Mm-hmm.
And then met the bad motorcycle riding, chain smoking ex-military greaser who it turns out has a heart of gold and falls madly fucking head over heels with it.
And now it's like Art snuck out and got a secret belly button piercing because now it's asking for corporate intel drones. It's trying to just keep this under wraps that Sec Unit has been kind of a bad influence. And I know we've talked, basically every time we have talked about Art and Sec Unit, we've talked about how we see a lot of queer platonicness in their relationship. Mm-hmm. And there's a little bit of that in, oh my God, what is the book that Art is in?
Artificial Condition.
Yes, there's a little bit of that in Artificial Condition. There's a lot more in the novels that will really substantiate that and we'll really get into later. But especially with the benefit of that hindsight, seeing the seriousness with which their relationship is treated by the story. And that, yeah, this does have all the beats of a romantic coming out, of talking about a new partner, talking about somebody really important in your life. But obviously the relationship that Art and Sec Unit have is not quite like that. But seeing it given that same level of gravity just makes my heart explode, makes my heart so happy. I love seeing Art talking about how important Sec Unit is to it, even if we don't get Sec Unit's name.
Well, and also, I mean, for Sec Unit is very determined to remain aloof at all times and pretend it doesn't care, even though it definitely fucking cares.
Mm-hmm.
To which, when Art converses with Sec Unit, like, it sort of mirrors that a little.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't quite get as much of their love for each other. Whereas here, Art's talking with its sister.
And Iris can really bring that out of Art. And she does in the novels as well. And she can be sort of the voice for the feelings that neither one of them is willing to express in a way that's extremely sweet.
It's sort of implied, and it's mentioned a little bit, that time is funky for machine intelligences, but that Iris is Perry's big sister.
Mm-hmm.
And so Iris is like, dude, come on, talk to me.
Yeah.
Like, I want you to be okay.
And it trusts her. And the two of them have such a profound relationship that Art isn't doing the, I am an omnipotent spaceship god, fuck you, I'm so smart, I can crush you like a bug. It's going, Iris, I'm having emotions, I don't know how to deal with it. It's being vulnerable. It's not trying to be superior or threatening. It's just being a person existing in a relationship with another person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and we call this a queer platonic relationship because, like, that's, that is the best term that we have for it.
Mm-hmm.
What is a queer platonic relationship is a whole other broad question that we could probably do a whole several episodes on, and that people have done research papers and shit on. And all this to say, I tend to think about queer platonic love as love that is not romantic or sexual in nature,
mm-hmm.
and yet is also very deep and very intense.
Yeah, I would describe it as having a level of intensity, a level of commitment and trust that is not necessarily present in your general friendships. The relationship smorgasbord is a great tool that people can look up if they're curious about the things that we take for granted as being components of different types of relationships. But I think that...
I love the relationship smorgasbord.
Huge fan. But I also think that queer platonic relationships, at least in real life between human beings, is probably different from machine intelligences.
Yes.
But between humans can take elements that people typically associate with romantic or sexual relationships and collaborate and share certain things in their lives that, again, people don't typically share or do with their friends. It's complicated. It's complicated. I can't. I would say I'm not a scholar, but actually I do have a degree in gender studies, but I didn't study this specifically. So I was going, oh shit, I actually am an expert. Hand waving. But I see, like science fiction, like pornography, you know it when you see it. And I see it and I know it and it makes me happy. And I think that it brings me a lot of joy and it brings me a lot of validation to see that in art and sec unit's relationship.
I agree.
And if readers don't feel that vibe, or if the idea of a queer platonic relationship is hard to wrap your head around, because I know for a lot of people it is, thinking, well, how is that different than a best friend? Don't worry about it. Don't sweat it. But it's something that I see, and it's true for me. And this is my podcast, so...
No, I very much agree. Like, this is a love story. This is a coming out tale.
Mm-hmm.
And it is easiest for us, for the two of us specifically, to read queer platonic onto this.
Mm-hmm.
Since both Perry and Murderbot are sort of explicitly aroace,
mm-hmm.
which is a, like, very explicit, it's a very explicit from Martha Wells, like, hey, please don't read romance or sex onto my characters.
Yeah.
And so our result is, well, you're correct with that. And also this is a very intense, very deep relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And that exists without romance or sex in the real world.
Yeah. I know that part of being a talented writer is writing about things you have not personally experienced. But has Martha had somebody come out to her like this before? Like, how... I want to know what she drew from when she was writing this scene. Because I was not expecting it to just get me as a person who has come out to people before, who has had members of my family and friends come out to me. It just spoke to a deep truth of my experience in a way that I did not expect from a short story about a spaceship.
No. I was reading this at work.
Oh, bestie.
Like, in front of the robot I was running. Like, well, I don't know how to unpack that right now.
Flip it around, show it to the robot. Saying, how do you feel about this?
Honestly, the other thing that when we talk about this as a coming out scene makes me think of is, I think it's either the first or the second X-Men movie, where, is it Iceman? It's one of the younger mutants comes out to his family. And because those movies had Sir Ian McKellen, famed queer activist and actor, in the movies, like, he helped them structure it as a coming out conversation.
Oh.
But in that scenario, there's, the parents are, like, less supportive. It's there's very much a, like, well, why can't you be normal response. Now
I'm just thinking about the Heartstopper coming out scene, which is also...
Oh, the Heartstopper coming
incredible.
out scene. So
I do have another thing that is not related to the coming out scene. That's just a little button to put on the end of this. That's the broader plot implications that is not just about their relationship, which is the only thing that I care about, but is also very important, which is that Murderbot represents, much like with the whole preservation security issue, corporate weapon, just Murderbot's existence, knowing about art's very, very, very secret purpose, which I don't think is totally explicitly discussed in this story,
Not
so I'll
yet.
save that for the novels. Art's job is very secret, and we know this from Artificial Condition, that it has weapons, it has capabilities that are beyond what a research transport should have. Even the little bit that Murderbot knows at this point in the timeline is a very serious threat to that mission. If its cover is blown, then a lot of people are going to be really fucked. And we know that we can trust Sec Unit because we love Sec Unit and it would never hurt us. But I think it's understandable that Art's family has some concerns about someone previously affiliated with the Corporation Rim knowing the things that it knows. And that is something that they're going to have to reckon with.
Yeah, it's very, you brought the son of a mafia don home?
Yeah.
Huh. Fascinating.
Yeah. Experimenting with your sexuality? Healthy. But does it have to be with the Prince of England? It's literally that.
Oh my god, it is.
Yeah, this is great. We love you. We support you, Perry. I am so glad that you found companionship in another machine intelligence. Did it have to be a rogue Sec Unit, though?
I mean, it's very funny because, I feel like Iris is grappling with is this better than Perry falling for a corporate transport? The rogue Sec Unit isn't a corporate anymore.
I can kind of see the wheels turning in her head of thinking about how she will help pitch this to Seth and Martin and kind of soften the blow.
Absolutely.
Good. Okay,
we're
going to frame this in a certain way.
Okay, Dad and Dad are going to be eventually going to be cool about this. But
so, anything else for these stories, bestie?
I'm really, really glad that we're going to get more Art and Iris soon.
Yeah, this is going to tide me over until the novels.
Yeah, I do feel like sometimes I did feel a little bit like I got more about their relationship from this one story than I got from Network Effect as a whole. And it's been a minute since I've read Network Effect. I'm going to reread it before we start recording, obviously. But I feel like this short story is really where we understand Perry and Iris as siblings because we're inside their minds.
Yeah.
Whereas being inside Murderbot's mind is a little more difficult because Murderbot admittedly has trouble understanding relationships. Mm-hmm. Whether that's relationships between humans and machine intelligences, between its relationship with Art. It doesn't fully understand that, but it knows it's really important and that it trusts Art in ways it doesn't trust anybody else. Mm-hmm. So we will learn a lot more about Perry and Iris, but I feel like this story helped me get them.
Yeah.
In ways that I still had been kind of struggling with.
And they're also just a good sibling relationship. I don't know if Martha Wells has siblings, but you can definitely tell when some authors don't have siblings and they're trying to write siblings and it just falls, because we both have siblings, and it just falls completely flat. Sometimes you can really, really tell. But their relationship is great. It's nuanced. It's funny.
There was actually also one other piece. Perry uses crew private to reply at one point to some of the crew, which explicitly doesn't include Dr. Marique, even though she's, the line before, described as the team lead. Mm-hmm. Which means crew is an exclusive term that clearly Perry is the one that decides who's on the crew.
Yeah, I love that.
You can be part of the team, but not part of the crew. Mm-hmm. Which says to me that crew is family. Mm-hmm. Team is coworkers.
Crew is the family group chat. Everyone should go read these stories. Like we said up top, they're free. They're really short. They're just absolutely delightful.
I've read them all before, but I reread them all this afternoon in about an hour and a half. Mm-hmm. It takes you no time at all.
If you are joining us from the timestamp skip, welcome back. The other random thought that I had while I was reading these is that with the exception of compulsory, all of these are in the third person, which we don't get in the Murderbot novels. They're all from Murderbot's point of view. And so that's just also kind of fun to see Martha Wells flexing a different writing style.
Yeah, very much. We recorded these a little out of order, so we may release this either before, after, or at the same time as our Fugitive Telemetry episode. So if you look in your feed, your podcast feed, and you can currently see a Fugitive Telemetry episode, that tells you where that one is. If you do not currently see a Fugitive Telemetry episode, you can expect it to follow within 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
If the Fugitive Telemetry episode has come before, or it's come at the same time, one of the next things that you will hear from us after the Fugitive Telemetry episode, wherever that is our network effect episodes. We are going to break that up into more than one episode because that is a novel, somewhere between 2 and 3 episodes, probably. I still have to do my listen through and be like, hi, what the fuck happens?
I feel like I'm out of shape after doing all these novellas, and then I got so used to long format stuff with Tolkien, and then we just had these quick little stories, and now I'm going, oh, we have a whole fucking novel. That's so much.
I remember reading Network Effect for the first time and being like, getting, about 4 hours into it and being like, well, we're definitely getting close to the climax now, right? No. No, baby, no.
Mm-mm.
I have commentary on the structure of that novel, and we'll get to that because I think Martha Wells did a good job with it, but I think you can tell she's coming off of writing novellas when she writes that. Anyway, we'll talk about that when we talk about the novel. But that's coming up. We will be reading Network Effect, and then we will be directly following with System Collapse, which will follow a very similar format because it's also a novel, and in the timeline, it directly follows Network Effect, like same day type shit.
Mm-hmm.
After that, we'll probably do the Murderbot first season of the show, which just finished. We've now seen it all, and we'll talk about it on the podcast. I enjoyed it overall.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
I do have questions about why they did certain things, but we'll talk about that when we get there. So that's what is on the horizon for us. Thank you so much for listening and sticking with us. And just keep on listening. If you like what you're hearing, you can leave us a review, either a star review or a comment or a written review, depending on the podcast platform you are listening on. If you would like to leave us a review across multiple podcast platforms, you may feel free to do that, and actually we highly encourage it. For our own selfish reasons.
Hell yeah.
If you would like to interact with us in ways that are not simply listening to our voices, you can do that through our social media, which is at FanAppPod on all of the various social media platforms that we are on. You can particularly find us most active on Tumblr and Instagram. And you can always send us an email at thefandomapprentice@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening. We'll see y'all next time.
The Fandom Apprentice is produced and edited by Rin and Sam. Our music is composed and performed by James. You can find more of his work on Spotify and Bandcamp under Beiruz, B-A-E-R-U-Z. Our art is by Casey Turgeon. You can find more of her work at KCT Designs on Instagram. The content discussed is the property of the original copyright holders and is used here under fair use. Yeah, I just trail off there and it just goes, wahoo!